My name is Katrina, and I am here to present to you my Module 5. And I just want to start off by saying this was a fantastic course, and I'm so happy I took it. But the question is, am I done learning? And the answer is absolutely not. Because an American teacher, Vernon Howard, once said, you should always walk through life as if you have something new to learn, and you will. Our bodies never stop growing, so nor should our desires to learn. I started this course thinking I knew a bit about FNMI culture and what happened. And you know what? After I took the Module 2 survey, I was very embarrassed to know I didn't know much at all. But then that made me question the whys. Why were we not taught this information? Was it the education system? And even the education system, the information they were giving us, was it in fact true? Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they were covering it up. Maybe they didn't want to uncover the atrocity that happened or is still happening. I don't know. But I am now 43, being 43 with my own family and my career. I am now going to take education in my hands and make a better decision for both me and my 3 kids. And as an educator, I'm also going to plan to make sure that the voice of Indigenous people is heard inside my classroom and in my very own community. Am I the right person to do this? Yes and no. Hear me out. No, because I don't have all the information I need to ensure a student-centered learning environment regarding Indigenous people. But yes, because I now have the insight to do this. The insight to reach out to my community to make sure that I can be successful at ensuring a student-centered learning environment regarding Indigenous people, or any of culture for that matter. We need to be the solution to the Truth and Reconciliation document. So look at it, this is our goal. This is the goal. The goal is to be the solution. Let's work backwards. This is how we teach. This is how we learn. This is how we create lesson plans. Figure out our goal, and let's work backwards to figure out how we get there. Not just as students, but as members of our community, okay? I no longer want to be the perfect stranger. I no longer want to say, oh, thank God you're here. It's better that you do it, not me. No, that's got to stop. I need to use teachable moments to make sure that my students are engaged and aware. And what's more authentic than a teachable moment happening right in front of them, right? So I need to make sure that not only am I creating, but I'm maintaining an inclusive classroom and a safe space where we can all be who we are. You know, to include Indigenous perspective and content in my lessons. How do I do that? I reach out to the Indigenous community and leaders inside and outside my school, right? We have a community. We have people that are designated to help us with this information. Okay, I will acknowledge and respect Indigenous knowledge and ways of knowing in my teaching. For example, the use of the medicine wheel. Teaching not just our minds, but our bodies, our souls, and our hearts. A holistic approach. I don't understand why we have not encompassed this already in our education system. I will work to build relationships with Indigenous communities, inviting them into my classrooms as guests and making use of our community resources. I will address and when I encounter stereotypes and biases instead of sweeping it under the rug. You know, again, teachable moments. I will challenge misconceptions and promote a more accurate and nuanced understanding of Indigenous peoples and cultures. I will create a safe and inclusive learning environment by encouraging students to be who they are in a space that is entirely theirs to share in an open dialogue. And finally, for me, I will learn more about the FNMI community by reading books, watching documentaries, such as the 8th Fire video series, which thank you for introducing, because that was phenomenal, and attending workshops and events led by Indigenous scholars and activists. The question still stands, though. Does it end here? Absolutely not. We need to work together, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to make sure that 7 generations from now, they can stay as resilient and strong as ever. Now, I learned a lot from this course. A lot of shocking information from this course. The lack of funding for schools on reserves. The conditions of schools and housing on reserves. It's worse than third world countries. The literacy rate is 30%. 30%. The highest in the world, and that's right here in Canada. A video highlighting Kingfisher Lake Reservation exposing the only elementary school they have on the reserve that has no running water or heat, and a building that is literally crumbling to the ground. Anywhere else, this is unacceptable in Canada. It's a basic human right. Why is it not on the reserves? It took a 13-year-old girl who unfortunately passed away in a car accident to fight for a proper school to be funded and built on the reserve. And honestly, I'm sorry she didn't get to see this personally. I'm sure definitely spiritually. As of 2013, the Katawapiskak Elementary School finally opened. But it took a 13-year-old girl. I learned that students need to move away to a larger city at the age of 12, 13, by themselves in order to attend high school. No wonder why suicide rates are so high. I also learned that Indigenous people don't even self-identify. That's a huge problem. Could you imagine not wanting to be you? Not wanting to self-identify with who you are because of how you be judged and treated? I thought we had passed all this. The blog in Module 1 outlines the difference in worldview opinion, encompassing such a beautiful way of life for the Indigenous people, and yet a harsh and selfish life for the rest of us. We are constantly competing and have no balance between who we are as people and what we believe in spiritually. Why have we not taken a more holistic approach with how we live? Has COVID taught us nothing? We had to be the ones with the most toilet paper. We had to have the most hand sanitizer. We had to be first in line. And if something went on sale, we had to buy everything. And then what did we do? We sold it online for double, triple, quadruple the price. Why? We always have to be ahead of the game. Why? If we've learned to live with ourselves spiritually, with Mother Earth, in a community, this would have never happened. But I learned that the Vancouver School District uses and applies the medicine wheel in their schools and curriculum, and I understand why now. What we need to understand is that the use of the medicine wheel means that everything is interconnected. We are one with the land, the universe, nature, and ourselves. We cannot fragment the teaching. We need to teach it as a whole. The use of the medicine wheel as a guide is a way to ensure that we are successful at creating and maintaining a holistic approach to our students to ensure engagement and understanding. I also learned that we need to start having those tough conversations, whether we want to or not. Focusing on the past is one thing, but we also need to focus on current Indigenous issues as well. They still exist. Shocking. 1 in 6 women are victims of violence in the Indigenous community, and yet nothing is really being done to decrease this number. Another piece of shocking information I found out is that in the top court, there's a requirement to have 3 persons from Quebec, because we are a dual speaking country, dual language speaking country, French and English. So 3 persons from Quebec are required, but there's no legal or even customary requirement to have a person of Indigenous status. What? And it wasn't until 2017, put that number in your head, 2017, that we had an appointed judge for the Supreme Court named Honorable Michelle Obonsawin, who was Indigenous. 2017. Now maybe when any FNMI people are accused of a severe crime, they can have a fair trial, knowing that there is a judge out there that understands the systematic and background factors of the offender and the types of sentencing procedures and sanctions that are appropriate in the circumstances, also known as the GLOD principles. Mind-blowing. I also learned about the 60 scoop. I don't know where I've been, living under a rock. Never heard of this terminology before this course. Didn't even know that it existed. And I feel bad that I didn't know. I mean, this is where Indigenous children were taken from their families and adopted by non-Indigenous families and raised in non-Indigenous cultures. Sound familiar? I had no idea this was a thing. I don't even understand how people make these choices to support something like this. I'm just so angry at this. The residential school system, the lack of basic human needs such as education and healthcare on the reserves, the stereotypes that still exist. But what makes me enraged is the fact that this is still happening in 2023. Why? How can we comply with the Truth and Reconciliation document if stuff like this continues to happen in our own backyard? I am outraged at the information I learned throughout this course. I'm happy I learned it, but outraged at the information itself. Not the delivery, not the fact that we need to learn it, but the information itself. I'm embarrassed about the lack of knowledge I started with. I'm empowered by what I know now and how I can learn more. That's how I feel about this. I'm excited to be able to use it in my life as an educator and a mother. The first video on Module 4, titled Indigenous in the City, covered so many things, but the main point was about stereotypes. Why is it that when Renee Pelletier decides to tell people that she's a lawyer, it's good? The minute she mentions she's Indigenous, it's a shock. Why? Can Indigenous people not be lawyers? Why is it a different reaction? Why does she receive a different reaction once she says that she's Indigenous? Doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. Or how Indigenous people still have to explain that they still pay taxes. Of course they still pay taxes. They pay property taxes. Like, why are they still accused of being alcoholics and druggies? Why? Not cool. You know, like, you try to live off the land that was given, quote unquote, and I use that term loosely, to you, and then you need a pass just to leave it? A piece of land given to you, but you need a pass just to leave it. How would you survive? The fact that non-Indigenous people, not all of them, but quite a few, still have the get over it attitude. Sure, our land is made up of immigrants from around the world. I mean, my parents are immigrants. And that's why we're known as the Mosaic Nation. But immigrants and settlers had more rights than the people that actually lived here first. okay? It's easy to be able to procreate and succeed and grow an economy when you're not restricted to a piece of land, let's be honest, a crappy piece of land. And then not only are you restricted to that land, you need a pass, which let's be honest, they were never granted that pass. All these hoops they had to go through probably to get one. So of course these immigrants and settlers thrived. And of course they can come and say, I came here with nothing and I was able to succeed and build a life for my family. Sure, you had no limitations, 0 limitations. You could go anywhere, you could trade, you could produce, you could grow successfully. So yeah, I get that, but you need to understand that not everybody had that opportunity, right? What the non-Indigenous people didn't realize was the resilience of the Indigenous culture and people. They thought, put them on a piece of land, let them do whatever. They're not going to make it. Well, guess what? They did. And they're doing such a great job at it. This is what kept them alive, kept them fighting. I kind of feel a sense of relief for them. But at the same time, my person tells me that it comes with strings attached. So yes, we had the residential schools. We're sorry. Let's do this, this, and this for you. But what are the strings? And it just doesn't sit right with me. Why is that? Like, have they not suffered enough? Is it not their time to shine? Come on. Like, let's stop. What am I thinking? I'm thinking, honestly, education is the key. Education in the classroom, education outside the classroom, within our community. Education is the key. If we do not start with education, then we are going to continue this vicious cycle. But education of the truth. Education, don't sweep things under the rug. Don't just educate what you want people to learn. Educate them the truth. Tell them the truth. Tell them what happened. This is the only way to stop this vicious cycle. It's great that the curriculum now encompasses FNMI courses, but why at such a high level of learning? I wish they would have, just like how we have, literacy, which is great. I'm not saying no literacy, but can we not have a period dedicated to just FNMI? I love how Module 3 was designed to take whatever we already know and whatever we already have to teach and to tweak it to include Indigenous teachings. The one that stood out for me, I'm going to go back to Sarah. She's another student taking this course. On her post, she turned a basic patterning lesson in math into honoring a traditional art like beadwork. Blew my mind. Beautiful addition, beautiful beadwork that she showed. Just throwing it in a math lesson, fantastic. It was out of the box thinking, but really stood out for me. Or simply something so simple as replacing a book for a book report with an Indigenous author. Like, mind-blowing. Something so simple. Why didn't I think of that? I don't know. Another one that stood out for me was Maria's lesson plan, her idea on Haida style art and executing it on a linoleum block. I mean, we teach art. Let's do it. Why not? Being able to adjust our plans to incorporate Indigenous culture and people should and hopefully will come easily, especially now that most school boards have an Indigenous representative to look at for resources. But we shouldn't stop there. Using our own community and involving elders to come in and tell stories. How effective would that be? It makes for an authentic and engaging learning environment. And in turn, we have students who will not only learn, but appreciate it, right? Following along with our best practices Ensuring students are in an inclusive and safe classroom that promotes open dialogue and self-reflection. Ensuring we are planning lessons to adhere to all our students' needs and providing them with opportunities to share their knowledge in a way that is creative for them. Approaching education holistically, utilizing the medicine wheel as a way to ensure that our minds, bodies, and souls are interconnected and learning at the same time. Do I still have questions? Absolutely. Like, why do Indigenous people have to fight for basic human rights, such as education, healthcare, and jobs, when it is freely given to everyone else? Why are their living conditions on reserves worse than third world countries? Why are they not granted equal rights and treatment from the government? They say, the government says that they give them equal rights and treatment. We know the truth. Why do I feel that the only reason the government is trying best with the Indigenous people is because they got caught? Let's be honest. I did not hear much about FNMI until the gruesome discovery of 215 unmarked graves located on the site of one of more than 130 residential schools. That's when I started knowing and hearing more. They got caught. How long could have this gone on? Why does the Indian Act still exist? And that's an honest question, because I looked at it. Did I obsess over it? No. But why does it still exist? Does it really need to? Why do I feel that we still treat Indigenous people as second-class citizens who should be blessed to be here? I don't understand. There are a lot of questions I still have amongst others. But the great thing is, as I said before, you should always walk through life as if you have something new to learn, and you will. And whatever information I learn, I will bring it into my classroom and into my home, into my community, because you know what? Education is the key that will hopefully put an end to all of these injustices. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Sorry it was so lengthy. Hope you liked it and enjoy. See ya.